You wake up in the morning and before your feet even hit the floor, your mind is already racing. There are deadlines to meet, relationships to manage, bills to pay, expectations to carry, and a world that never seems to slow down long enough for you to catch your breath. You have tried meditation apps, breathing exercises, journaling, even therapy, and yet the anxiety follows you like a shadow that no amount of light seems to dissolve. What if the solution was not found in a modern wellness trend, but in a philosophy forged more than 2,000 years ago by men who faced war, exile, slavery, and death, and still found peace? What if the Stoics already cracked the code on anxiety, and nobody told you? Stay with me, because what you are about to learn has the power to change how you experience every single day of your life. The Stoics were not dreamers. They were emperors, generals, and freed slaves who lived in one of the most turbulent periods in human history. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire while simultaneously fighting wars on multiple fronts. Epictetus was born into slavery and lived most of his early life without freedom or comfort. Seneca navigated political corruption, exile, and the threat of execution under Emperor Nero. These were not men who sat in comfortable offices theorizing about anxiety. They lived it, breathed it, and still managed to cultivate an unshakable inner calm. The technique they all used, the one at the very heart of Stoic philosophy, is what we are going to break down today, step by step, in a way you can apply starting right now. The root of all anxiety, what the Stoics discovered. Before we talk about the technique itself, we need to understand what anxiety actually is, because most people are fighting the wrong battle. Modern psychology tells us that anxiety is a response to perceived threat. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a lion chasing you and a difficult conversation with your boss. It floods your body with stress hormones, tightens your chest, races your heart, and narrows your thinking, all because it believes you are in danger. But here is the thing the Stoics understood long before neuroscience caught up. The danger is almost never real. It is a story you are telling yourself. And the story always follows the same pattern. You are afraid of something that has not happened yet, or you are suffering over something that is already in the past, or you are fighting against something in the present that you have absolutely no power to change. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, The Meditations, that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Read that again slowly. You are not suffering from your life. You are suffering from your thoughts about your life. The anxious mind is not responding to the world as it is. It is responding to the world as it fears it might become. This is the great Stoic insight that changes everything. The source of your anxiety is not outside of you. It never was. It lives between your ears, in the gap between what is happening and what you are telling yourself about what is happening. Once you see this clearly, the path to relief becomes obvious, and the Stoics laid that path out with extraordinary precision. The ancient Stoics called this understanding the foundation of their entire philosophy. Epictetus, who spent his early years in chains, said that a man is not disturbed by events but by the opinions he forms about events. Imagine that. A man who had every external reason to be consumed by bitterness, fear, and despair instead became one of the most admired philosophers in the ancient world, not because his life became easy, but because he mastered the way he responded to it. That mastery is available to you right now. You do not need to wait for your circumstances to change. You do not need a different job, a different relationship, or a different body. You need a different relationship with your own mind. And that is exactly what the Stoic technique gives you. The Dichotomy of Control, the most powerful mental framework ever created. The central technique of Stoic philosophy is called the Dichotomy of Control, and it is breathtaking in its simplicity. Epictetus opens his famous handbook, the Enchiridion, with these words: "Some things are in our control and others are not." That is it. That is the whole framework. But do not let the simplicity fool you. Most people spend the majority of their mental energy on things they cannot control, and almost no energy on the one thing they can. The Stoics flipped that equation entirely. They devoted their full attention to what was within their power and practiced radical acceptance toward everything else. The result was not passivity or resignation. The result was extraordinary effectiveness combined with extraordinary peace. So what is actually within your control? According to Epictetus, the list is shorter than you might expect. Your judgments, your desires, your intentions, your responses. That is essentially it. Everything else, your reputation, your health, whether people like you, whether the economy cooperates, whether your flight is delayed, whether your colleague respects you, whether your children make good choices, all of it falls outside the circle of your control. This does not mean these things do not matter. It means that attaching your peace to them is a guaranteed path to anxiety. Because things outside your control will always behave unpredictably. They will disappoint you, surprise you, and betray you. But your response to them is always, always yours. Here is how to practice this right now. When anxiety hits, pause and ask yourself one question: is this within my control? Not partially, not theoretically, but actually, directly within your power to change right now. If the answer is yes, take action immediately and stop worrying. If the answer is no, your job is to practice acceptance and redirect your energy toward what you can control. This sounds simple because it is. The difficulty is not in understanding it. The difficulty is in doing it consistently, especially when your emotions are running high. That is why the Stoics treated this as a daily practice, not a one-time insight. You train your mind the same way you train your body, through repetition, patience, and commitment. Negative visualization, the counterintuitive practice that rewires your brain. The second Stoic technique that directly dismantles anxiety is called negative visualization, or in Latin, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before you close this video thinking this sounds like the most depressing advice you have ever heard, stay with me. Because this practice does the opposite of what you expect. Most anxiety is driven by the fear of the unknown. Your mind races through worst-case scenarios not because it enjoys suffering but because it is desperately trying to prepare for every possible outcome. The problem is that it does this unconsciously, chaotically, and without resolution. Negative visualization takes that exact same instinct and channels it into something structured, controlled, and ultimately liberating. Here is the practice. Once a day, preferably in the morning or evening, spend 5 to 10 minutes deliberately imagining that something you value is gone. Maybe your job. Maybe your health. Maybe a relationship. Maybe your comfort, your routine, or your freedom. Do not catastrophize or spiral. Simply sit quietly and consider, what would it actually feel like if this were no longer in my life? What would I do? How would I cope? What would still remain? The Stoics did not do this to torture themselves. They did it for two profound reasons. First, it builds genuine resilience by mentally rehearsing adversity before it arrives, so that if it ever does arrive, you are not blindsided. Second, and this is the beautiful paradox, it makes you deeply, profoundly grateful for what you already have. When you spend even 5 minutes imagining that your morning coffee, your warm bed, your ability to walk outside, your relationships, your work, all of it could be gone, you come back to your actual life with a completely different set of eyes. Seneca wrote that we should live each day as if it could be our last, not in a reckless way, but in a way that makes us fully present to what we already possess. Anxiety is almost always future-focused. It is consumed by what might happen. Gratitude is always present-focused. It is nourished by what is already here. Negative visualization is the bridge that walks you from one to the other. Practice it consistently, and you will find that the things you feared begin to lose their power over you. The view from above, zooming out of your own suffering. Marcus Aurelius had a practice he called the view from above, and it is one of the most powerful anxiety-reducing techniques ever described. When he found himself overwhelmed by the pressures of ruling an empire, the politics, the betrayals, the wars, the demands, he would deliberately zoom his perspective out. He would imagine himself rising above his own situation, above Rome, above the earth, until he was looking at the entirety of human civilization from a vast distance. From that vantage point, every individual anxiety, every political struggle, every personal insult, every failed plan, appeared for what it truly was, a tiny, temporary event in an incomprehensibly vast story. You can practice this right now without needing to be a Roman emperor. The next time anxiety grips you, try this. Sit quietly and close your eyes. Picture yourself from above, not with judgment, just with gentle curiosity. Then expand that view. See your street, your neighborhood, your city. See the millions of lives being lived simultaneously alongside yours, each one carrying its own weight of worry and hope. See the continent, the oceans, the planet floating in the silence of space. Now come back to your specific anxiety. Notice how it feels from this wider perspective. Is it still as urgent, as catastrophic, as all-consuming? Or does it begin to look more like what it actually is? One small moment in one small life on one small blue dot in an infinite universe? This is not about minimizing your pain. Your struggles are real and they matter. The view from above is not a dismissal, it is a recalibration. It reminds you that you have survived every difficult day so far with a 100% success rate. It reminds you that this too, whatever it is, will pass. Seneca wrote that time heals what reason cannot. The view from above gives you a taste of that perspective without having to wait years for the wisdom of hindsight. It is available to you in any moment for free, without any equipment, any app, or any subscription. All it requires is the willingness to step outside your own story for just a few minutes. Amor Fati, the art of loving what is. Perhaps the most radical and transformative concept in all of Stoic philosophy is Amor Fati, a Latin phrase that translates to love of fate. This is not passive acceptance. It is not resignation or defeat. It is the active, deliberate decision to not just tolerate your circumstances but to fully embrace them, including the painful ones, as necessary parts of your story. The Stoics believe that everything that happens, every setback, every loss, every moment of suffering, contains within it exactly the lesson, the strength, or the transformation you need. Fighting against what has already happened is not only futile, it is the single greatest source of unnecessary suffering in human life. Think about the last time something went wrong in your life. A project that failed. A relationship that ended. A door that closed. In the moment, it probably felt like a problem, maybe even a disaster. But if you look back honestly, you will almost certainly find that something essential came out of that difficulty. A lesson you needed. A direction you would not have taken otherwise. A strength you did not know you had. The Stoics were not naive about this. They knew that suffering is real and that some losses are genuinely devastating. But they also knew that the attitude with which you meet your circumstances determines whether that difficulty breaks you or builds you. Amor Fati is the choice to let it build you, every single time. Practicing Amor Fati does not mean pretending to be happy when you are not. It means choosing to ask a different question when life is hard. Instead of asking why is this happening to me, you ask what is this trying to teach me. Instead of resisting what is, you look for what is useful within it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle is material. Every setback is instruction. Every moment of anxiety, approached with this mindset, becomes an opportunity to practice exactly the virtue the Stoics valued most, the ability to remain anchored, purposeful, and at peace, regardless of what the world throws at you. Memento Mori, why remembering death sets you free. One of the most misunderstood Stoic practices is Memento Mori, which translates simply to remember that you will die. To modern ears, this sounds morbid, even depressing. But the Stoics used this practice not to induce fear but to dissolve it. They understood that the vast majority of human anxiety comes from misplaced priorities, spending enormous emotional energy on things that, in the grand context of a finite life, barely matter at all. When you hold the reality of your own mortality with clear eyes, something remarkable happens. The trivial things stop demanding so much of your attention. The meaningful things snap into sharp focus. And the present moment, this one, right now, becomes the only moment that truly matters. Steve Jobs, who had a deep interest in Stoic philosophy, said that remembering he was going to die was the most important tool he ever encountered for helping him make the big choices in his life. Because when you truly accept that your time here is limited and precious, you stop wasting it on grudges, on seeking approval, on worrying about what people think, on postponing the things that genuinely matter to you. You stop living as if you have an unlimited supply of days ahead. You start treating each day, even the difficult ones, as the rare and irreplaceable gift that it actually is. This is the freedom that Memento Mori offers. Not the freedom from death, but the freedom that comes from no longer being afraid of it. Here is how to bring Memento Mori into your daily life without turning it into a source of dread. Each morning, before you check your phone, before you look at your inbox, before the noise of the world rushes in, take 60 seconds to acknowledge the simple fact that this day is a gift. You do not know how many more you have. No one does. Let that awareness quietly inform every choice you make today. How you speak to the people you love. What you choose to spend your time on. What you decide to let go of and what you decide to pursue. The Stoics did not use Memento Mori to shrink their lives in fear. They used it to expand their lives in purpose. And that, in the end, is the greatest antidote to anxiety ever conceived. A life so deliberately and fully lived that there is simply no room left for fear. Putting it all together, your daily Stoic practice. Now that you understand the core Stoic techniques for ending anxiety, the question is how to weave them into a real, sustainable daily practice. The Stoics were nothing if not practical. Epictetus did not just teach philosophy, he taught his students how to live it, hour by hour, decision by decision. Marcus Aurelius did not just write about his ideals, he wrestled with them in the trenches of actual life, often falling short and starting again. This is the spirit in which you should approach your own Stoic practice, not as a performance of perfection, but as a daily commitment to showing up more intentionally than you did yesterday. Begin each morning with what Seneca called the morning reflection. Before the day begins, take 5 minutes to set your intentions. Ask yourself, what challenges might I face today? How do I want to respond to them? What is within my control and what must I release? This simple ritual primes your mind to respond rather than react throughout the day. Then, whenever anxiety surfaces, and it will, use the dichotomy of control as your first filter. Is this within my power? If yes, act. If no, breathe, release, and redirect. At the end of the day, close with the evening review that Marcus Aurelius practiced every night. 3 questions. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? What will I do differently tomorrow? These practices take less than 15 minutes a day combined. Yet their cumulative effect, practiced consistently over weeks and months, is genuinely transformative. You will begin to notice that the things that used to hijack your nervous system for hours now occupy only a few minutes of your attention. You will find that your baseline level of calm rises steadily over time, not because your life becomes easier, but because your relationship with difficulty fundamentally changes. You will become someone who does not just survive hard times but who moves through them with a kind of grounded, deliberate strength that other people will notice and wonder about. That is the Stoic promise. And 2,000 years of human testimony says it delivers. Subscribe, this is just the beginning. If what you've heard today has started something in you, a spark of curiosity, a shift in perspective, a sense that there might be a better way to live, then I want you to know that this is only the beginning. Stoicism is not a weekend self-help seminar. It is a complete philosophy of life that has guided some of the greatest minds in human history through some of the most difficult circumstances imaginable. And every single week on this channel, we go deeper. We explore the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and the other great Stoics, not as dusty ancient history, but as living, breathing wisdom that is directly applicable to your life right now, today, in the world you are actually living in. If you are a professional navigating pressure, ambition, burnout, and the relentless demands of modern life, this channel was built for you. We translate Stoic philosophy into practical tools for the real challenges you face: difficult colleagues, career uncertainty, financial stress, the pressure to perform, the fear of failure, and the quiet, persistent anxiety that so many high-achieving people carry in silence. You do not have to carry it alone. And you do not have to keep fighting it with tools that only scratch the surface. The Stoics went to the root. And that is exactly where we go on this channel, every single week. Hit the subscribe button right now and join a growing community of people who are done letting anxiety run the show. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And if this video gave you even one idea, one insight, one moment of clarity, share it with someone who needs it. Your colleague who has been struggling. Your friend who seems overwhelmed. Your partner who could use a reminder that peace is possible even in the middle of chaos. Stoic wisdom has survived 2,000 years because it works. It worked for a slave. It worked for an emperor. And it will work for you. We will see you in the next one.